Good afternoon, YouTube. This is Econ K88, and I'm back in one of my favorite places, the ghost town, otherwise known as downtown Toledo, Ohio. And we're going to make a video about a park. Yes, another park in Toledo, except this is a special park because our current mayor recently decided to waste $2 million upgrading a park by adding some benches, a few flower planters, steps. Let me see what other high-tech stuff they decided to add here. Can you come up with anything that they decided to add here?
I didn't know they had any particular plan, honestly.
And some special cement. I read in the article that they mentioned.
Special cement.
Yeah, some kind of special. I forgot their actual term, but I'm sure it costs more than just regular cement like this.
I'm sure Rudolph Libby here appreciates the business.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that they gave Mike Bell one hell of a handshake for this $2 million handout. And over there you see a bar that was called the Fort for all of 5 weeks before it went out of business. And that place is, I've done other videos about it. It's been open and closed 3 or 4 times now. Just shows just how great the nightlife here is. Contrary to what some of our Toledo homers have to say. Over there is the Park Inn, that's Chinese owned. That top of a building that you see there is also a Chinese owned hotel, which is vacant, has been vacant for years. And right here is one of the crown jewels of Toledo. That is called the, what building again?
Technically it's called the High Tower, H-Y-T-O-W-E-R, a 30-story, totally empty skyscraper.
One of Toledo's more renowned things. We are known as having one of the country's largest 100% empty, vacant skyscrapers. So here's this park. It's called Promenade Park. It was more of an 80s and 90s type thing back in the twilight of Toledo's good years. And so this is where they decided to spend $2 million. And recently the Toledo Blade has decided to give my YouTube channel some exposure. Not necessarily positive exposure, but nevertheless exposure. And there were a lot of people that are upset about my videos, frankly, and I don't really care, but I will respond to some of you folks. First and foremost, if you don't like the material, don't watch it, okay? Nobody's forcing you to watch my YouTube channel. Secondly, if you're that concerned about making Toledo better, stop moving to the suburbs. And even if you do live in the suburbs, come down here and pick up garbage or volunteer to do something or whatever it is that you think will make Toledo better. But first and foremost, what will make Toledo better is jobs. Preferably jobs created by the private sector.
Well, I'm telling you, they've tried this since the 80s. Pan over here to this wonderful piece of wood over here. 1983 is what it says right here on the plaque. I remember when they built this stuff. I remember all this, parties in the park and all that kind of stuff. That 1980s, we're going to fix everything. That's 30 years ago. What have they fixed?
Yeah, they haven't really fixed anything. In fact, it's gotten much worse, and I also remember Party in the Park. Not from the early 80s, I was still too young to really recall that era, although I do remember Portside and those things. I think that was mid to late 80s. I've watched this city crumble, and I've watched the same people use the same wrong methods to try to fix things. And first and foremost, we don't need politicians to tell us what we should be doing with our money, folks. Your money is best left in your own pocket, spent as you see fit, and let the market work. And for some reason, even the Toledo Blade, they're citing Councilman Steve Steele, who is someone that I do know, that was mentioned in the article. Wouldn't really say we're that good of friends anymore because I don't really speak to him that much. I've only spoken to Steve a few times in the last few years. But yes, we've known each other for a long time. And they are quoting him or fielding questions and answers from him as far as how to fix Toledo He was one of the 2 council members who proposed a parks levy, of all things, last year to increase property taxes to build more parks and for more money for parks and recreation in the city of Toledo. And I have done a series of videos from a couple years from last year about the parks are not used, and you can see that again here.
Yes, well, I had a count of, including ourselves, 4 on this side of the river, 4 people. And I think I see 2 of them right now, 2 or 3 other people on the other side of the river. So what's that, 6?
6 people out of how many people that live in the city of Toledo?
287,000 people.
That's definitely worth spending $2 million, I guess, in the eyes of our mayor. And just so you guys know, it is December 1st or December 2nd today.
December 1st.
It's probably around 50 degrees today, and it's pretty sunny. Definitely an unseasonably warm day.
Yes.
And yet there are still a half a dozen people, not only here, but on the other side of the river, which is another park, and another
International Park.
Yeah, that's International Park, and that's they have a recreation area over there and just all sorts of stuff. So we really don't need more parks in the city of Toledo, I gotta tell you. And if you live here and you support that, then I'll tell you what, you pay for it. Because I don't want to pay more money, and I really don't want to see any other Toledoans forced to pay for things that we don't need and that they don't want. So these politicians are always going to find more ways to spend money. Why? Because it gets them in the news, it gets their face in front of the cameras and in the newspapers, and that's exactly what they want. And they don't give a damn how many other people it negatively affects. If it helps keep them in office and allow them to wield power over the rest of us, that's exactly what they're going to do. There's a steam plant, that's another empty building. I've done other videos on that. That's another bust. So that's about it for this one. Is there anything else you wanted to add here? This is a friend of mine from my YouTube page. He's also going to remain anonymous, by the way. Is there anything else you want to say before we end this one?
I'm horrified they're repeating the same mistakes of the 80s. If we just, your camera, you go on to the left quite a bit at a distance. There's an entire underground area they built in the 80s that is now empty. Port side, all that stuff, built from the 80s.
Yeah, now they're just trying to revitalize these same things over and over and over again. It's like, if you keep making the same mistakes, do something different. And maybe that's another message for Toledoans. Start electing some different people with some different philosophies. And by all means, stop voting for these levies, because that's just, we're already getting just crushed from these. Our water rates here have just risen. When I first bought my house in the 90s, my water bill was about $40 every 3 months. Now it's $120, and it's scheduled to almost double in the next 3 or 4 years.
Restaurants.
Yeah, restaurant. I mean, the city leaders, they talk on and on and on about, oh, we need more bars down here, we need more restaurants. Hell, how the hell's a restaurant going to be able to make money or a bar make money down here when water's a large part of their costs? So, definitely something to think about, folks. That's about it for this one. This is Econ K88 signing off from Toledo's Promenade Park. $2 million down the tubes. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Please comment, please subscribe, and please stop voting for levies.